Dow. O'Dow. For my Bill Burr fans out there.
Traverse the open wall. That's modal. Mr. Spobble can look at either deck.
Yeah. Again. There's a lot of ins, a lot of outs.
Yep.
A lot of what have yous.
Yeah.
Ross on your left, Chris on your right. Good to see Chris back in the feature match area. It's been a little while since we've seen him.
Thoughtseize basically has a mode for every non-land in their hand.
That's true. There are a lot of modes there.
Yeah.
Tell you what. These players will be given the green light. 3-0 starts. And away we are about to go here in Cincinnati. It's an overgrown tomb. That's
2.
Yeah, that's 2.
Hard to get to 7 from that start, though. You really need that fetch land.
Yeah. There's Thoughtseize. Here's the opener. No surprise here from Ross. A lot of mana accelerants there. An Elvish Mystic and Llanowar Elves. A Quarter Calling, Eclectic Company, a Horizon Canopy, and a Cavern of Souls. 6-card hand there from Merriam.
Oh, this looks like a hand that might be a little mana heavy with a Horizon Canopy. So I'm going to go ahead and get ready to stamp on. Player draws a card with Horizon Canopy.
You go and get that stamp ready. Not going to happen. There goes Elvish Mystic. Chris with the Mirsh's Bauble in hand. He might be saving that. It looks like he is saving that. Yes. Let's go to Ross. Ross going to play Cameron. Name Elf. There is a Llanowar Elves. Let's go over to Andersen. Chris with a Bauble. He'll be taking a look at Ross's top card. It's an Azuri Renegade Leader. We got to remember Chris very well versed in Elves given his legacy play. Not sure how much Chris has played the deck in Modern, but the decks are somewhat similar. Elves in Modern, a powered down version of Elves in Legacy, but Chris has had a lot of success with Elves in his life.
And Ross, of course, no stranger. He's played a lot of Elves on the SCG Tour.
Oh, yeah. It's a pretty looking land there from Andersen.
What does MPS stand for?
I was going to ask you. I don't know what you're in the booth
Magic Play something.
Yeah, Magic Play Series, Magic Promo Series. Someone on Twitter will tell us. Here's a Tarmogoyf.
Magic Play something.
3-4 Tarmogoyf? Okay. Okay. We're working our way up. That's Horizon Canopy. Gonna take one. This is Azuri. That Tarmo die is just on the move. Not quite sure where it's going to end. But for now, we know Azuri's on the battlefield. This is a Inquisition of Kozilek. Cord Company Nettle Sentinel here from Merriam. Patrick's still in search of that fatal push with Revolt. I think you're going to get a lot of chances at that this weekend.
I should.
You should.
It's basically a free space.
It's the best removal spell in the format.
And it is good alongside Polluted Delta. Yeah. So I have to imagine we will see that at some point.
Nettle Sentinel's going to bite the dust here. That's a fatal push.
Come on.
Without Revolt, thanks. And here comes Tarmogoyf for 4. Is there seriously not a land in the graveyard? Are you kidding me? All right, fine. Ross will draw.
Come on, Ross. You need some help.
Oh. Change that die, Chris.
5-6.
Change that die.
5-6.
About time. Boop. I am feeling good about this. I needed that spot. Basic forest here. He'll get to the die in a minute, I'm sure. There it is. Yes.
It's official.
Looks like Thoughtseize was the draw. Andersen might lead out there to take a Cord call, or to take a Eclectic Company. Probably not going to get a chance at the Cord. So here is Thoughtseize. I think we're going to see Merriam Cord for 1, perhaps.
He might just say okay.
He could do that as well.
Because if you want to take the Court here, then you're drawing into a land to Collected Company. And there might not be anything he really wants the Court for right now. Yep.
Well, he will say okay. And Chris is going to take Collected Company straight away.
Because you might want to draw a land here so you can court for 2 and get a Visionary and sort of try to build back up.
It'll be a court for 1 here for Merriam. He'll have to take 1 to do it. See what elf he wants to get out of his deck. I'm imagining like an Elvish Mystic or a Land of War Elves. He'll go with Elvish Mystic as he falls down to 8. Best draw for Ross right now, probably just copy a Collected Company, folks. But we will see what Merriam can find here as we move to his next turn. Didn't get a great look at it. May have been a chord. Now, Ross does have a little bit of a unique setup here insofar as he can just block with Elvish Mystic and regenerate. Against his Tarmogoyf for a little while. Azuri, of course, cannot regenerate herself or generate another target elf. So Ross is going to need to, Chris is going to need to kill that Azuri and able to keep attacking. For now, we'll go over to Andersen. Polluted Delta the draw. That's 1 piece to your Revolt puzzle.
And Azuri costs 3, so you really need to get that Revolt, take care of it.
You do.
And Andersen kind of needs to get the Azuri off the battlefield before he can really move on with the game.
Also true. There's your Delta. Sacrifice the Delta. You're halfway to Revolt. Does Chris have a push? We don't know.
Well, we're all the way to Revolt. We just don't know if he has a spell yet.
That's true. Breeding Pool is going to enter the battlefield untapped. This is a Traverse the Uvenwald with Delirium, land artifact. Sorcery and instant make this easy. That, I believe, is a Death Shadow. While Chris was away, not playing Magic, he certainly fumbled upon some nice cards.
Yeah, this might be lenders.
Here comes Tarmogoyf. This is not 1, but 2 copies of Death Shadow. Not the biggest Death Shadows we've ever seen. They're just 2/2s.
And if Ross did not block and regenerate here, he must have drawn a chord.
Yeah. This will be a chord for 2. What's he want to get with this one? Oh, you might be thinking about the Elite. Also could be thinking Devoted Druid. Couple of options here for Merriam. The Elite gives him more blockers to do more blocking plus regenerating with Azuri. Whereas Devoted Druid, if he's able to top deck a way to find Vizier of Remedies, that's infinite mana, and that means a lot of overruns with Azuri. So which way does Merriam want to go? Looks like he's going to try to play to get a little bit lucky here.
Yeah, it's hard for him to block and regenerate everything. So once he can't stabilize the game that way, he doesn't have really enough elves or mana. Some of his green mana is Horizon Canopy. He'll just die to that. I think he should give himself the best shot of just top decking and winning the game.
I'll tell you, in order for him to cast that Vizier, though, he's going to need white mana. So it seems a little risky to sacrifice the Horizon Canopy there, Patrick. Might not see that happen.
If he misses his draw step here, he's just gotta do it. Come on. You need this.
I think he needs that white mana.
You need a fresh look at it.
Well, there's the Elite. So he got each thing that he wanted. He considered Darwin's Elite. He considered Devoted Druid. Now he has both. He'll simply pass the turn back over to Chris Andersen. Chris with a 5/6 Tarmogoyf, 2/2 Death Shadows, and a draw step, which is a Polluted Delta.
Merriam has cobbled together quite the board in spite of having most of his resources just stripped out. A lot of discard, a lot of removal, and we might be looking at, Ross is not that far away from turning around and killing him here.
Doesn't take much.
And if Andersen stops attacking, he's in a ton of trouble. Even if Merriam finds something like Heritage Druid, that's basically moat in this spot.
Oh, yeah, because all the regenerating he can do. Yeah. Here's Traverse with Delirium yet again for Andersen. See what he wants to search up this time. He's got access to Street Wraith, Tarmogoyf, and Death Shadow. However, his Death Shadows only 2/2s right now. Fetch land plus a round of shock land means he can make them 5/5. Whatever he'd like.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little mopey to go get a Street Wraith, but I think just another body on the ground doesn't do a whole lot.
Well, you know, getting a Street Wraith does enable him to hardcast a Street Wraith.
Yeah, I think that if Tarmogoyf is no good here, then a hardcast Street Wraith is probably no good here. Yeah, now with Azuri kind of locking him out of attacking on the ground, there's nothing to be done by getting a Tarmogoyf or getting a Death Shadow, so just get a fresh look at it.
Cycle Street Wraith is what Chris will do. He'll fall down to 9. And he'll draw a new card. Looks like it may have been a copy of Abrupt Decay.
That'll play here.
That will play. Goodbye, Azuri. Big draw there from Andersen. Devoted Druid's going to tap for a green. There will be some regeneration that takes place here on some of Ross Merriam's creatures so that Chris will not have particularly great attacks.
And the issue here now from Merriam's side, besides losing his best card, is he's no longer drawing to infinite mana as a kill. He'll just have a bunch of mana in play.
All right, so Ross is going to take a damage here. Regenerate these creatures. Going to fall down to 1, it appears.
He can use his counter here to untap. He's got 3 blockers with 3 attackers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's a lot to be gained by Andersen attacking with all the shields up here and the risk of him just dying on the way back to something random.
Yeah, I don't really think
you get to put a counter on the Devoted Druid, which does not feel like enough of a benefit.
No. Well,
bingo!
There goes the Horizon.
Well, not actually, not literally bingo, but figurative bingo. I have filled out a spot.
Oh, he can't sack it. He can't sack it as it was tapped. So I would.
Oh, come on.
I would. That that's not a thing for you right now.
Oh. Just brick on your draw here and sack the canopy, please.
Yeah, the Devoted Druid still does have a counter.
Yeah.
Ross made a mistake there, but yeah, he had tapped that already for mana for regeneration. So Devoted Druid still does have a -1/-1 counter. Draw step here from Ross.
That's
Cavernous
a brick.
Souls.
That's a brick. All right, good.
All right, you're good.
All right, we're good.
All right, you're good. All right. There's Devoted Druid. And pass. So he's got some, yeah, here come lethal attackers. Block, block, block.
Ross is still drawing into Collected Company and shooting it, you know?
Oh yeah, he could hit. He could hit Collected Company into Vizier Azuri and win. Like, it's not hopeless. It is now because he did not find Collected Company. So Chris Andersen is going to win game number 1 here over Ross. Merriam, 5-color Death Shadow up a game here over Elves. Merriam on a mulligan there, was able to cobble together a pretty good battlefield, truth be told, even though he had his hand torn apart via discard spells, but not able to cobble together the win.
I think that if he's able to avoid a removal spell out of Andersen for a turn or 2 on that Azuri, Merriam's in very good shape to win that game. But so it goes.
Sideboard time. We'll start with Ross, who's got 4 Path to Exile, 3 Lead the Stampede, and here come the one of fun ofs. Rest in Peace, Stony Silence, Rule of Law, Selfless Spirit, Kataki, War's Wage, Aven Mind Sensor, Eidolon of Rhetoric, and Reclamation Sage.
I'm interested in the copies of Path to Exile here. I think if Andersen's not really clocking Merriam, that Ross has a lot of time to get his board set up. I can see bringing in the one of Mind Sensor too because of Traverse and other
Fetch
cards.
lands,
Yeah.
flying actually is good in the matchup.
Yeah, it's okay.
For Chris, 3 Disdainful Stroke, 3 Lingering Souls, 2 Ancient Grudge, his 1 of Fun ofs, our Stubborn Denial, Kozilek's Return, hello. Liliana Laslope, hello. It's Staticaster, hello. Gore Clan Rampager, Ranger of Eos, Godless Shrine.
The things that deal 1 or 2 points of damage at a good rate is a Staticaster, Liliana the Last Hope, Kozilek's Return.
Someone get this man a raise.
Yes.
Get this man a raise.
Ross's deck is filled with creatures with 1 toughness. Cards that are good against 1 toughness should be good against Ross's deck.
Okay. There it is.
And there you have it.
Yeah. He hasn't been in the booth for a couple weeks, folks, but he's still
got
got it.
it.
He's still got it. We are going to go to our StarCityGames.com weekly sale now to see if he still has it with this one, where until Monday, you can get 25% off thousands of rares.
Head over to go.starcitygames.com/weekly sale. Check out what is on sale this week. Every Monday, 11 o'clock Eastern Time, East Coast Time, we come out with a new sale. So make sure to be going back to the website at least once a week to see what's on sale. Right now, an extremely broad 25% off thousands of rares, including Zur the Enchanter, Future Sight with art that I don't recognize, a Battlefield Forge from Magic Origins, and Burning Sun's Avatar.
That's like the Cube Future Sight art right there.
I
That's
don't
all
know.
it is. I'm impressed that you knew Zur the Enchanter, though.
Well, it's there's enough in the frame that it says Zur, comma, the, and from there I can fill it in.
You can do it.
I wouldn't have been able to get that in the dark, but
Okay. We'll take a moment here to learn a little bit more about Chris Andersen, a player who is currently up a game. And we haven't seen much of Chris this year. He's been away studying. He has a 28-year-old from Indianapolis. But one thing's for sure, when he's here, he does win with 20 open top 8s, 2 open wins, 2 invitational top 8s. No invitational win just yet. Brother, lead singer of a band, 9-time Hearthstone legend. He started playing Magic at the age of 4. Good friend of mine during college when I went to Purdue. He was living in Indy. He actually went to Purdue for a little while as well. That's Chris Andersen, everybody, who is, again, currently up a game as they get ready here for game number 2. So these players will take a look at their opening hands in just a moment. Elves versus 5-color Death Shadow.
Magic players, this is the last call to sign up for today's.
How do you feel about Elves?
I think in matchups where it's just about speed and there isn't a whole lot of removal, it is one of the best decks in Modern. These kind of matchups, I think pressure plus removal are a little bit more challenging.
These players are going to lay out their openers. Ross's run with Elves, the last opening top 8, he made it look pretty easy, I'll tell you that much.
I think that I underestimated this deck for several years in the Modern version. But in matchups like Affinity or Infect, let's say, these decks that it's basically just about speed and not a whole lot of your stuff is dying, Elves looks pretty dominant across the board in that kind of matchup. And Collected Company and Court of Calling is just a lot of selection and staying power. You aren't necessarily just beat by Anger of the Gods or Engineered Explosives. Not cards you really want to play against, but you can recover from that stuff. As we sort of saw that in the first game there, where Ross was hit with a lot of discard, a lot of removal early on in the game, and it was only when the Azuri died where the house of cards finally collapsed. He was keeping his head above water in spite of a lot of disruption and a lot of pressure up until that point.
Yeah, Azuri was doing it all by herself, keeping the whole house of cards together, but as you mentioned, once Azuri went down,
he had
unfortunately
1-1s
so
and
did
2-2s.
Ross.
Yeah, 1-1s and 2-2s versus 5-5s and 5-6s.
Yeah. All right, Andersen's going to scry. And giving this one a little bit of thought, top card's going to go to the bottom. Ross will start it up with a Forest and Nettle Sentinel. To Chris we go. Stubborn out of the draw. I see a fetch. Yeah. Okay, that ends that dream.
Don't have it.
That ends that dream. Player ends the first turn at 13 or less life. Yeah, not even close. Nettle Sentinel in for 2. Merriam with a Misty Rainforest. He'll take at least 1. We'll see how low he wants to go. Merriam will search for a basic forest. He has Sideboarding and Rest in Peace. You did see that. We'll slow down Tarmogoyf, some of the other things that Andersen is up to. Elvish Visionary, trigger from the Nettle Sentinel, untap it. Ross will draw a card. And we're heading back over to Chris Andersen, who's going to fall down. But we'll see how fall. We'll see how far he wants to fall. Bang! Revolted fatal push. Get that marker out, my man.
Finally. 4 rounds in.
You're a little all over the board.
Yep.
Yeah, you're a little all over the board.
This is about the least efficient distribution of dots one can have on a bingo board right now.
You're a little all over the board. That revolt fatal push did take a little while.
Yeah.
I'll give you that. This Magic Bingo game, it's heating up.
It is.
It is starting to really heat up here. We're going to go over to Chris. He's at 15. Let's make it 13. Tarmogoyf. That'll be a roadblock. This is 3-4. To Ross Merriam we go. Looks like he picked up a copy of Razor Verge Thicket. That'll be his 3rd land. This is an Elvish Archdruid. And Ross will pass it back over to Chris. Chris will draw a card. Archdruid very powerful if it does stay alive, which it just did. So we go back over to Merriam very quickly. Andersen with no attacks, nothing good to do.
And you imagine Andersen's not setting some sort of trap here. If he could have gotten the Archdruid off the table, he would have.
Oh, yeah. Darwin's Elites. I'm going to bring a 1/1 elf token along with it. And it looks like Ross might have a copy of Lead the Stampede in hand. So we might see him go that route here momentarily. Plenty of lands over there for Merriam. He's going to play a Windswept Heath. He'll sacrifice that Heath. Going to fall down to at least 18. We'll see how much lower he wants to go. And there's another Elite and another Elf token. And now Archer is going to tap for 6 screen. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 6. Now here's Lead the Stampede. 3 floating. Nettle Sentinel. Heritage Druid. Only found 2. And unfortunately for Ross, no Azuri in there. He doesn't have company. Doesn't have Court, it appears.
But with an Archdruid in play, if Andersen doesn't have something really specific next turn, he's just going to get attacked to death.
Mm-hmm.
And you're getting a little bit of a display here of what Elves can do when it's not being overloaded with disruption. Only 1 removal spell, no discard, and I think Andersen drawing very slim here.
Looks like Andersen may have drawn a copy of Terminate. We're going to go back over to Ross. Ross is going to probably cash in the Rising Canopy. You already got that stamp. Draw a card. Looks like he may have picked up another copy of Razor Verge Thicket. Yep, it's time. Terminate's got to go towards the Archdruid. Yep, slow these things down a little bit. It's going to make these creatures a little bit smaller. Tarmogoyf will get to eat something. It'll probably be Nettle Sentinel.
I don't think it's... I don't know if any of the 2 power creatures are appreciably different from any of the others.
Well, there is a Heritage Druid out there, so
yeah,
in theory,
that's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
The Elite is just kind of 2/2 textless at this point. At least it certainly feels that way.
The other side is you could hope that Merriam just has no spells left and that the Nettle Sentinel can't untap. Because you can't really beat anything anyway.
Well, Chris actually opted to eat the Heritage Druid. Again, remember, both these players have played Elves across various formats for a very long time. So, Chris is definitely putting an onus on. My life total is basically the same. And Heritage Druid being alive could lead to some bad things down the road. Ross will just pass the turn back. We are going to go over to Chris Andersen, who's picked up a copy of Marsh Flats. Death Shadows. Now this is interesting too because Ross did not play another elf in his hand.
Well, I think he can... I don't think it's that hard for Ross to work around some blockers. He's worried about something like Kozilek's Return, wiping out everything. So even though it cost him lethal this turn, I still think Merriam's approach is correct.
He picked up a copy of Collected Company for the turn, folks. And I think that's probably a pretty good place to start.
Because if Andersen needs to break this Marsh Flats casting a Stubborn Denial, then you just truck across the finish line
that's easy.
with your creatures.
Yeah.
The risk is that if you collect a company into some stuff and Andersen gets out of this turn alive and then hits you with Kozilek's Return,
You're done.
Then you're done, and you're done having used a collected company in a spot where you didn't absolutely have to. But I think it's hard to believe that if Kozilek's Return was in Andersen's hand, he wouldn't have just cast it last turn. It would have been so good.
Yeah, there's no reason to set the trap. He literally just kills all of Ross's creatures. So Chris is going to fall down to 3 here. I got to imagine Watery Grave. Yeah. Now, if you're Ross, do you take the opportunity right now to cast Collected Company? Ross, pretty smart guy, knows what he's up against.
Well, it's weird to me that you would do it now, because if you're worried about a counter spell, if you cast it on the main phase, he's just dead anyway.
Yep. Well, he's going to play it now, so here's Company. That untapped Nettle Sentinel. 4, 5, 6. Yeah, so this is kind of worst case scenario here for Ross because he found Archdruids. So had he cast Collected Company on his turn, he could have attacked for lethal very easily.
Yep.
Now, one of the nice things here for Ross is he's actually protected against Kozilek's Return because the 2 Archdruids work in combination. They're 3/3s, which are pumping the rest of the team, which means Cozy's Return's not going to do it.
Yep.
So, in that respect, Ross doesn't really get punished, and he does cast the Collected Company while Chris is tapped out from Stubborn Denial.
Yeah,
so that's a good thing.
And now he's just drawing Kozilek's Return. At least.
Well, there you go.
But that line from Ross was a little weird to me. It's very possible he was playing around some card that's not on my radar. But if you're worried about your Collected Company getting countered, then if you cast it right away, and he breaks a Marsh Flash to go get Stubborn Denial mana, you win on the spot.
Correct.
If you're going to pass and not cast it out of concern of Kozilek's Return, then why would you cast it on the end step when the shields are down? Who cares if the shields are down? Because if you just collect a company into some stuff and he has the Kozilek's Return, you're theoretically worried about it, you're done.
Yep.
So I'd be interested to talk to Ross there to see what was the reasoning behind that line. Because it seemed like, to me, if he's worried about the possibility of a counterspell and the possibility of Kozilek's Return, that line is sort of the worst of both.
Yeah, that could have been bad news for him.
So I don't know.
That could have been bad news for him.
You know, there could be a card on the radar there that is just not on mine. That motivated
Chris,
that
very
line
nice
play.
of him to show him.
He might know about the list.
Yeah, that's fair. We're going to take a look at SCG Game Night here very quickly before game number 3 is underway. A very popular promotion with a couple of different products here. Number 1, of course, is Vampire Night Fox. I'll let you go through the other 2 very quickly before we watch game number 3.
Vampire Night Fox, November. We'll have in a moment here. Tumble Goat.
And then December.
Akarowan.
Akarowan? That's not a word. A Croakin.
A Croakin. A Croakin is also not a word.
Mm-hmm.
Not only is it not a word, but there's an apostrophe.
Why not?
It's like plainly not a word.
Yeah.
Go to srcgames.com/game night. Find the game night closest to you.
Back
Get
to
in
the
there.
match.
You know. Go check it out.
Looks like Chris is going to take a mulligan here. While Ross might be happy with his hand. Pretty good second game there between those 2.
Yeah, that was fun. I think there's a lot of play and a lot of interaction inside of 4 turns on each side. And that's, I think, emblematic of a lot of matches in Modern. Because there's a lot of play for both of these decks. Just how do I sort of initiate my resources? How do I get off the ground? And then there's a ton of play on the table as well.
Chris going to take a look at 6. All right, happy. He'll keep. Long scry here from Chris. Remember, Chris on the play this game. Looks like he's going to keep it on the top shelf.
Yeah, scribes on the play can be tough in Modern because sometimes you're looking at a really good card with a 1-mana play in your hand and a fetch land to initiate it, and it's, do I take turn 1 off to draw this card, or do I just say, whatever, shuffle it away and do my thing?
Well, that answers that, because Chris is just going to play Polluted Delta, pass the turn back. Ross, unsurprisingly, going to have a turn 1 play, as he's going to sacrifice a Windswept Heath, likely get a basic forest, could be a Temple Garden, and then there's Heritage Druid. Chris wants to draw this card. Remember, he left this on top. It was an Overgrown Tomb, so perhaps that was land number 2.
Yeah.
You see he's got a copy of Mishra's Bauble in hand, so he'll play the Bauble now. Going to target himself. Obviously that card's going to stay on top. Can't go anywhere but top. But he's getting himself more information on if he wants to sacrifice that fetch line now. This is Inquisition of Kozilek. Take a look. Rest in peace among the cards. Also Elvish Archdruid, Elvish Visionary. Let's make it 2 Archdruids. And then 2 copies of Rising Canopy.
Rest in peace here, not nearly as good as it is against the Delve-centric builds of this deck, but Tarmogoyf is still problematic, and some other graveyard synergies as well. I'm surprised it's above the line to bring in, given how dense Ross's deck needs to be full of threats. I think I would err on the side of not bringing it in, but Ross knows his way around this a lot better than I do.
Good against Tarmogoyf, good against Traverse.
Sure.
Those are the areas where I think it's at its best in this matchup. Ross with just 1 in the sideboard too, so not a real overload.
And maybe part of the reasoning is, if I shut down Tarmogoyf and Death Shadow takes a little while to get online, I have a lot of time to get set up.
Yeah.
Tarmogoyf is really the thing that puts you under the gun early.
Chris will remember his trigger from the Bauble. Very smart.
Still got it.
Yeah, easy to forget. In comes Heritage Druid. Now there is Elvish Visionary. Bloodstained Mire, the land there for Chris. Sacrifice some fetch lands here, it looks like. Yeah. See what lands Chris wants to get here. So he's going to fall down to 11. Water Grave and Blood Crypt. So red, black, blue, green. Just missing white. White cards after sideboard. Not really much of a thing for him. Lingering Souls, Ranger, VO, stuff like that. Not really all that relevant in this matchup. Same thing can be said about Lingering Souls. So he's got all the colors of mana that he needs, I would argue. And now here's Tarmogoyf and Death Shadow. So now he's got big creatures too. Goyfi has at least an artifact in the graveyard from the Bauble earlier in the game. There's also a land and a creature. And a sorcery, so it's actually pretty big Tarmogoyf at this stage. Death Shadow not as large, just a 2/2. To Merriam, we're going to go. And he does have a Path to Exile in his hand. Picked up a Pendlehaven for the turn. Actually, pardon me, I think that's the Rest in Peace. I take that back.
I think Rest in Peace also makes more sense if you're going with Path, because if you have the Tarmogoyfs covered, then all you have to beat is Death Shadow.
Well, no, he actually does have Path too. So he has both those white cards. There is Path to take care of Death Shadow. Chris does have at least 1 basic. Most of the time he has 2. You see he's searching his deck right away. Tarmogoyf is just going to be a 0/1 for the rest of this game, or at least until an Abrupt Decay takes care of that Rest in Peace. And now here come the free rolls.
And now Merriam really doesn't care about attacking Andersen's Light Total. There's nothing punishing him for that. And he can start racing with his 1/1s against no one.
So Andersen's going to fall down to 9 from the attack, and then we're going to head back Chris's way. Chris does have a copy of Liliana of the Veil in hand. Curious how that's going to impact the game. There's a Bloodstained Mire, and he'll just pass the turn back. So let's go over to Ross Merriam.
Looks like Andersen picked up his copy of Kozilek's Return.
Well, fair enough. Llanowar Elves, the draw. There's a Pendelhaven. Here come the Knuckleheads. They're just 1/1s. Pendelhaven can make them a little bit larger, but not going to. Follow up is Elvish Archer. A little surprised to see that post-combat. Now he's just kind of moving all in, so he got his damage in. But not pre-combat, as there go all the creatures.
Now this Liliana that was looking like it would be hard to do much with anything. Looks
good now.
great now.
There is Liliana. Chris will play the blood. He'll play the breeding pool tapped. Liliana will go up, take care of Ross's last card, which was a land. And now both players will be top decking.
Modern Open competitor Evan Witten to the name of its scorekeeper. Modern Open competitor.
Ross's draw was a devoted druid. He's going to play that and pass the turn back. Over to Andersen we go. Who can top deck better right now? Thoughtseize the draw for Chris. Not great. He'll minus Liliana, take care of the devoted druid. Ross might be thinking draw a card, but I think he'd rather leave mana up for Collected Company.
And also, you just can't afford to get cards stuck in your hand in this spot against the Liliana. As long as Ross can just draw and cast whatever, all he's got to do is work his way through 2 edicts.
Fatal Push and Thoughtseize, the cards in hand here for Chris, as these two players go back and forth. Discard a Thoughtseize. Chris is going to hold on to Fatal Push for right now. Over to Merriam, we're going to go. He's going to attack Liliana most likely. There's your pump, there's your push. Ross will play Nettle Sentinel. Pass the turn back over to Chris. Didn't get a great look at Chris's draw, but he is going to tick down Liliana. There goes Nettle Sentinel. Chris will pass. Ross not going to cash in that Horizon Canopy just yet. Now he will. Draw a card. He's got another canopy that he can play. And he will play that. Razorverge stick at the other land in hand. Pass it back as we head over to Chris. Liliana's going to go up. Ross will lose a thicket. Chris will probably lose a land. Terminate in hand for Andersen. To Merriam we go. He wants Collected Company, folks. That's the big one. This is a little bit risky because if he draws it, he can't cast it. Picked up an Elvish Mystic. Elf will be the name on Cavern. Elvish Mystic, the play. Andersen picks up a Verdant Catacombs. Terminate is going to go after that. Liliana's going to go up. To Ross. To Llanowar Elves. To Chris. Minus. Pass.
Just any creature.
Yep. That's only going to bring 1 with it, not 2. That's the elites. This is a terminate. Chris right now in hand has actually a traverse, which Rest in Peace is doing a nice job of taking care of. Liliana back up to 2. To Ross. It's true.
Yeah. You don't care. Just can we finally get this Liliana off the battlefield?
That's all he's trying to do. That's all he's trying to do. He's drawing a lot of creatures in a row to open himself up to that opportunity. Chris drew a Thoughtseize. That's not what the doctor ordered here. He'll cash it in. Chris with Thoughtseize in hand, pass the turn back. Merriam, boy, that's a big one. Lead the Stampede. Collected Company, Path, Heritage Druid, Azuri, Path. He found 2. And the other 3 are pretty good, but they're going to the bottom. And he'll play the Heritage Druid and pass the turn back. Andersen will draw a card. Not bad. He gets the Thoughtseize away Azuri. Falls down to 5 to do it. And he's got Fatal Push in hand. Let's go back over to Ross. Didn't get a great look as here's an attack for 1. It's a Pendelhaven activation. Fatal Push will take care of that. Follow up Nettle Sentinel. You think he's going to draw a land ever?
I think he drew 1 or 2.
Yeah, he drew Horizon Canopies. In for 2. Static Caster will block. Static Caster is good right now. Forest and pass.
Cuts out a lot of draws.
It does. Pass the turn back, will Andersen. Merriam, I think he may have drawn the Elite. He did. The Elite will trigger Nettle Sentinels untap. It'll bring a 1/1 along with it. That 1/1 will die momentarily.
Well, he's got a Pendelhaven. This is not that bad.
Yeah.
If the Sidecatcher has to tap on Andersen's own turn to finish it off, well, then you're going to do attack for 4.
Yep, that's very true.
That's
Shadow.
Oh, I thought it was a Street Wraith.
No.
God.
A different black creature,
I
Patrick.
thought I had it.
And it's a very big one in Death's Shadow. Merriam has drawn a Cavern of Souls. Who can draw better between the two? Merriam's still looking for chords. companies and paths, Andersen has found a creature that matters finally in Death Shadow, and it's a big one. And Andersen might be able to get aggressive with this Death Shadow. This right now is an 8/8.
Merriam's drawing to a much more threatening range of cards than Andersen here. I think you got to try to get the game over with.
Remember, Andersen does have a fetch land on the battlefield, at least one, potentially two.
I think he's got a Mire and a Catacombs.
So he could sacrifice those to make Death Shadow even larger if he'd like to. We can't forget as well, he does have Thoughtseize in hand. So that could be another way to make Death Shadow larger, even if Ross does have something good. Ross is going to consult the sideboard very quickly. Make sure he knows what he can be drawing to. A little bit of information never hurt anybody. Ross will play Cavern. Simply pass the turn back over to Chris. Chris will draw a card. Oh yeah, I like it. Chris knows he's got to try to win this game. Pass the turn back. Another copy of Thoughtseize is what he drew. Well, get busy living. Get busy attacking. Death Shadow just got bigger. As Andersen has fallen down to 3. Fatal Push the draw.
Fatal Push is a big one here.
Well, we know it's company, absolutely, and this is going to untap and block. And Nettle Sentinel has the potential to block here. Oh boy.
Oh man, this is a lot.
Yeah, there's an Elite, there's an Arc Druid, there's a Devoted Druid. This is the card Merriam was hoping to find the entire time. And Azuri is ideal in this spot.
I think this is too much.
Yep.
It's too much. Andersen is going to get beat by a going wide attack, even if Azuri doesn't survive.
I think Chris did exactly what he was supposed to do, which was try to get this game over with.
Well, you see why. You got to try to cut out some turns, because once this happens, the game's over.
Yeah. So he identified sitting back on his heels was not going to get the job done. The top decks here were friendly for both players, truth be told. But that Collected Company is the best of the bunch. Looks like Arc Druid is the one that Ross wants to put in front of the Death Shadow. Remember, Azuri can't regenerate that. And unless Chris has a way to give this thing trample like a Gore Clan Rampager, which he does not. There's your regenerate. Now, of course, you can't trigger Revolt by sacrificing a fetch land and falling down to 2 to be able to Fatal Push Azuri, but again...
just die to attacks.
Yeah, there are 3 creatures, and you best believe Ross will be doing some attacking. So we are going to go over to Ross Merriam. He will untap all those lands. Collected Company was his top deck last turn. This turn, it is another copy of Collected Company. Don't think he needs it to win this game, though.
Yeah, probably just move into combat and...
Archer will tap for 4. In combination with Cavern, it'll be 5, which can give all of his creatures overrun. Right now, if you are Chris, you are hoping Ross overthinks something, and he will attack with everything before giving overrun. There's your block.
Ross doesn't even need to do anything right now. This is just lethal.
Yeah, pass priority, and that is going to do it. Ross Merriam is going to win this match over Chris Andersen. 2-1. Elves will take care of 5-color Death Shadow, and it was a top deck Collected Company that got Ross out of trouble. Azuri, Elvish Arc Druid, and the green team on to 4-0.
Ross was just a lot more dense with meaningful cards once that Rest in Peace hit the battlefield. Andersen was